Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's album review. So I'll share the screen to show you what we've got coming up for you today. So if you have a look here at the second comment, I don't know why this person has left a comment about a reaction video we did on this particular video. Maybe just trying to get their comment, like to get more attention to it. I don't know, but haven't replied to it yet. Anyway, Scrambled 59, he's back. One album I'd like to see reviewed is the new Abnormal by The Strokes. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. The energetic yet, oh, not that bloody word again. Scrambled 59. Can you stop using this word, please? Melancholy doesn't sound right, does it? Tone of some of the songs. Julian Casablancas' immaculate falsettos and Rock Rubin's incredible production all add together for a great package. So, Brett, tell me everything you know about The Strokes.
Oh, I can't tell you a lot. I know a few of their songs. Rep Killer, I think, is one that I know I quite like. I think 1356 or 1410, something weird number like that as well. I've actually forgotten the main one, the big hits. That's sort of gone out there. Oh, Last Night, I think it was that Strokes. So I know a small handful of songs. They're, to use your famous quote, a bit rocky. They're quite, in that sense. So very different. We recently been doing a bit of Coldplay, so it's a bit of a mix up from there. But again, wouldn't know a lot of their back catalogue, so I am intrigued to see what is there really.
Okay, so before we look at this particular album, in terms of what I know about the Strokes, I've heard of them. The name certainly rings a bell. Like if you said, what are the Strokes? I'd say, oh, it's some kind of group, whatever, musical group. But that's about as far as it goes. Now, I may know some of their songs. Like if I heard them, maybe some of their biggest tracks, I'd probably even be surprised if I didn't know any of them. But like those names you just mentioned there, don't ring a bell. But anyway, the album we're going to be listening to, I believe, is quite a new album, because I'm guessing I'm guessing they've been around for quite a while, the Strokes. So if I share the screen, so this is their sixth album, released in 2020. So yeah, got positive reviews from critics. 45 minutes long. It's classed as indie rock, new wave, post-punk, pop, electronica. It has won some awards, I noticed as well. So yeah, it won Grammy Awards in 2021 for the best rock album. So if we look at the track listing, kind of similar to Coldplay, in that there's not that many songs on the album, but most of them are very long songs. So I don't recognize any of them. Billy Idol. He's very famous, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize obviously Billy Idol. Yeah, I don't know. Brett, what are you thinking? Any of these songs you recognize here?
No, I don't recognise any of those. And to be fair, I didn't realise the Strokes were still doing stuff up to more recently, really. I mean, the songs that I knew, recognised were, we're talking almost 15 years ago and stuff. So, yeah, I said it could be, a little bit different what they do now. And in fact, it's got a few awards, works in its favour potentially a bit. So, again, with me going in with a clear head and just see what comes out.
yeah, I'm quite looking forward to this. Yeah, I kind of want to get to know the Strokes, find out what they're about. Yeah, I don't know. I might not like it, but might not be my cup of tea. But until you listen to it, then you're just not going to know. So yeah, quite looking forward to it, as I said. What about you, Brett? Looking forward to it?
Yeah, I say I think could be something a bit new, a bit different, not quite had just yet. So yeah, like I said, open mind, not looking forward to it, and I think there should be at least maybe one all right good song from it.
Yeah, so we're going to go off now and listen to the album. So we're going to be back with you guys very shortly. So we've now listened to the album by The Strokes. So Brett, what did you think of it?
So in my introduction, that we obviously just heard from our people. So I kind of said, obviously, I didn't know the Strokes that well. I knew a couple, 2 or 3 of their songs, and the songs I did know were, quite, I'll say, quite rocky, quite full on. So I think probably in the back of my mind, I kind of was thinking that was what I was going to be getting into in this album. But it seemed like it was the total opposite to that. It felt very relaxed in comparison to the songs I knew of the Strokes already. So that's all to me by surprise there. I like the album. I think like some other recent ones we've done, there was no real sort of standout song. I think the songs were they were different, but the same as in, like I said, nothing really sort of stood out as being amazing at all. But I really enjoyed listening to it. Like I said, I think because I was expecting it to be really quite intense, quite rocky, and it just didn't do that. It was actually quite relaxing and quite enjoyable to listen to. Like I said with other albums as well, I think I say it a lot, it would be an album I would want to go back and listen to again. But otherwise, I thought it was okay. The other thing I felt quite interesting, like it would probably be more when we go through some of the tracks, that it kind of had sort of a very British, also 80s kind of feel to it. Where I know the Strokes are American, and I said I was expecting to be a lot more rocky. So yeah, like I said, it just wasn't what I expected, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. But I said I did quite like it, but it just wasn't any particular sort of standout songs from it.
Okay. So for me, I listened to this album in 2 parts, like on kind of like 2 separate days, I guess. I did songs 1 to 4 first, and then I came back to it like the next day and did songs 5 to 9. So I'm not sure if that had any bearing on my views. So I'd say overall, probably not the sort of band I would normally listen to, but there was plenty of things that I liked about this album. So firstly, the variety of song type. I thought it did offer a lot of variety. The different things going on in different songs. So even if I didn't necessarily like the song, I just appreciate the fact that it was different. Whereas we've done some albums that are just kind of very samey all the way through, whereas this definitely wasn't like that. Secondly, it managed to sort of have this kind of like 70s and 80s feel in some of the songs, which I quite liked. And what I also liked was the different singing styles. I've put here presumably different singers rather than just one lead singer. Maybe Brett, you could tell me a bit more about that if you know about it. Just there was quite a lot of kind of variety in the singing voices, I thought. In terms of the negatives, I didn't enjoy songs 5 to 9 as much as 1 to 4. So basically, after my first time listening to the first 4 songs, I was like, okay, this is really, really impressive. And then kind of after I listened to the second part, kind of a little bit more disappointed. But overall, I think I was fairly, impressed by it, and I enjoyed listening to it. Okay, so should we go through each song?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first one, the adults are talking. I thought this had quite a nice feel to it. It just felt very smooth. I like the singing style. Feels relaxed, not intense at all. So kind of like maybe what you were saying in your introduction there, and not like too really rocky. The main built-up part for me was the worst part, because we had to endure a high-pitched voice from a man. And I thought, is he trying to be Chris Martin? But overall, I didn't mind the song, and I thought it wasn't a bad start at all. So, yeah, a decent enough start for me.
Yeah, I've actually also put a nice feel to it. And I said, because I was expecting something quite rocky, and this wasn't it. This didn't feel like the Strokes to me. It felt like a really nice sort of introduction, a nice opening track to an album. Because again, generally, because I thought, okay, the next ones are probably going to go. It's going to go a bit more upbeat as such. But as we know, we'll go through it, it generally doesn't. So yeah, I said very, very good. And I've also heard about the sort of high sounding voice notes as well. I know you're not a massive fan. I don't mind. I can take it or leave it really. But I think it was a really good sort of opening track for the album.
Okay. The second song was Selfless. So as I was making notes as the song was going on, I just, but not bad so far, not a bad start. Serious question marks over his high-pitched voice, though. I think I just don't really like when men kind of sing in this high-pitched voice. It just doesn't really. I don't think it sounds good at all when it's a man doing it. I thought,
except for Mika, you probably like Mika doing it.
I was going to say, because I was listening to Mika today, and I was like, quite high pitched, but still kind of like it. I thought the instrumentals felt different to the previous song. The vocals have changed completely halfway through. That's kind of why I'm thinking, have we got another singer involved? The song offers variety, and I thought it was another fairly decent song overall, quite enjoyable.
Yeah, just to go back with your singer, because you sort of posed a question to me, which unfortunately I don't have the answers for. I generally thought the singer was the same throughout, but I did agree throughout the album there were different elements. And I think there's one particular song where I've put, is this a completely different singer? But I think there probably may be different singers on some of the other songs. And again, in this particular song, we've got that same sort of soft sort of continuing going on. And then I was sort of like, okay, maybe they're just doing a couple of soft entries and then it's going to go more rocky there. I really enjoyed the singing on this. It kind of it does feel, I know that the later songs, there are a bit more sort of emotional songs we were singing, but I felt like the singing does help with the song and it does feel meaningful. So I felt like there was like a deep meaning to it. So even though I didn't know what it was, it didn't matter. Just that's the feeling I sort of got from there, really. But again, just a really nice sort of song. And as I said, it just doesn't feel like what I know as the Strokes, but I do like it.
Yeah, just another thing to add, as you just mentioned about the meaning there. In case anyone isn't familiar with our channel, I'm terrible at understanding songs, absolutely terrible. So I've got no idea what these songs are about. I'll be honest with you. Even if I was reading the lyrics, I still don't think I'd understand it. My brain doesn't work that way. It just doesn't process the lyrics. I'm just there to kind of pick up on the sound and stuff and the way they sing. Yeah. That's just
and just to add, obviously, I'm the same as well. Just to add that in, we were there. But I do think with this type of sort of, with sort of rock indie kind of music, we've talked about it before, where I think a lot of times, even though there is a meaning to a song, a lot of times the lyrics don't really reflect that. It's more about the music. When we used to compare it to like sort of rap music, where the lyrics are more, I wouldn't say obvious, but more direct. Whilst with this, the lyrics are sometimes always a bit cryptic, so we say. It's not about that, it's about the sort of music with it that goes together.
Okay. Then we had Brooklyn Bridge to chorus. This had like an 80s disco start. Very 80s sounding because of the kind of background beat that was going on. And again, it was another very different type of song. And I just put here, this is more Killers-like. The band The Killers. And I quite like this song as well. I thought the vocals sound very much like The Killers, as does the style of song in general, apart from the kind of the 80s part, which kind of was only in the song, but during parts of it, it kind of came, went, it was different because there were different elements of the song. So, yeah, that's a really, really interesting song.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you say there. I didn't mention The Killers, but I did mention The Killers in a couple of songs' time, spoiler alert. But I totally agree. From thinking back, from what I remember of it, I could probably agree very much The Killers. And I think there's actually a lot of songs that are quite much like that. But what I've really put here is what you said, it's just had this sort of very distinctive 80s feel to it, which I loved. And again, it just wasn't what I was really sort of expecting. So it took sort of another little twist from there, but really liked it and really liking the 80s vibes. And I think he even mentions the 80s in one of the lyrics. I think I picked him up saying that as well. Yeah, no, really good. Different, as you said, a bit different, a good song.
Yeah. And we had Bad Decisions. I was struggling to make notes for this one. This one didn't stand out as much for me compared to the other songs before it. I wouldn't say I disliked it, but I maybe didn't like it as much as the others. Then it started to kind of really build up. Although I thought the song was lively from the start anyway. The chorus in this song was very prominent, which maybe wasn't the case for some of the other songs. But overall, it's okay.
Yeah, so I put here, again, sort of a real 80s, 70s indie feel to it. Feels very British as well. And I think besides things for a lot of these songs as well, really have that sort of kind of British feel to it there. This is the one that I remember you looked at an intro, and this is the one with the Billy Idol reference to it as well. So I think this is probably a Billy Idol song. I didn't recognize it. I don't really know Billy Idol stuff well enough to know that. Yeah, just didn't feel as distinctive as the previous song. But I did find, and I haven't said it for a long time, my head bopping, my toes tapping, just an indication of a good song. And it almost, I wouldn't say it was catchy, but it was almost the closest thing to sort of almost being a catchy song. But missing something for it to then sort of be forgettable. I think maybe if this was mixed with the previous song with that real 80s disco-ish electric vibe, it could have probably had a more standout song maybe for the album, if that makes sense.
Okay. So the next song was Eternal Summer. So I've actually made quite a lot of notes for this. Had a sort of 70s, 80s feel to it. Had a high-pitched voice. feels very retro. Kind of I've even specified the song. So not just like Pink Floyd, but actually kind of like Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. That kind of style to it. It had that feel to the song. I don't particularly like the song, but I just like the fact it is something different to all the previous tracks. Again, showing variety in the album. The whole aura of the song doesn't do it for me. I'm not really into this kind of style, and the high-pitched voice is annoying. Like the word psychedelic was even mentioned in the lyrics. I picked up on that word, which I guess is what it was trying to be. Some quite peculiar sounds going on, and I'm not sure if the strange ending was necessary. So overall, didn't particularly like the song, but I did like everything that kind of the package that came with it. I was just able to kind of listen to something different and kind of appreciate a really interesting song. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And it's kind of, I haven't got as much notes as you had there, but it's kind of what I was sort of alluded to here. this is where I started referencing the Killers, but I do get sort of the Pink Floyd thing as well. The point being that it just didn't seem like the Strokes. It was very different, but yet still very, very relaxed, but also not that good. So I think that, like you were saying, it's kind of like, I think, appreciate what it's trying to do, even though it wasn't my favourite song from it. But again, nice sort of relaxed vibe. Feel like I could listen to it, and I think this is where I started thinking, I probably would need to go back to listen to it. I feel like there was a lot more to it than just. I think that's when I realised probably not that way you sort of you've done before. Sit, review it, trying to understand. I think you just got to kind of listen to it and enjoy for what it is, maybe.
So the next song was At the Door. Had a peculiar start, and the song doesn't have a tune to it. It was just some kind of sound. Feels quite boring, but yet again, it is very different, adding to the variety factor. I personally prefer songs that really get going and have a tune to them. I've put this sounds quite experimental. We always say there's usually experimental songs. I'm going to give it to this one. Although, to be honest, the whole album kind of felt quite experimental. The song has then sort of changed its style. Again, more strange sounds going on, but still no tune to it. A very odd song is how I've described it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned experimental. Yeah, you're right. I normally always mention a song that's the experiment song, but for this particular album, as you said there, I actually haven't done it for this one because every song was kind of different and felt experimental in its own way, in its own regard. So, but I think you could pick any of these tracks. Potentially could be experimental one. This one, I think, was on one of the released songs potentially at the time, and I think it's one that most people sort of commented on when I saw like comments on channels and the videos and stuff. I put here this one. Like, not sure how I feel about this one. I feel like because it still has a sort of 80s feel to it. Still feels quite relaxed. It's not rocky. It's something different. I feel like I should really like this one, but I felt like I didn't. But I can't explain why. So again, maybe I might have to come back and do a little write-up again. Maybe listen to it another time. Think about it. But it felt like it was okay. I don't know. I think maybe I was expecting to like it a bit more, which is a strange thing to say because I don't know the song. I don't really know what I'm saying, but like I said, I think it had the potential for something I would like, but sort of didn't live too much up to it.
Okay. And we had Why Are Sundays So Depressing? So what kind of hit me straight away was it was a proper tune. After the last song, where there was no kind of like a tune to it, this one did have it. So I thought at least it's a proper song. Feels quite chilled. Again, a word I've kind of used quite a lot really for this album. Then there's a kind of strange part of the song where it kind of gets all messy with some kind of strange, almost kind of like space-like sound. Intruding, that's the word I've used, almost like intruding onto the song, like kind of like it doesn't belong there, like weird sounding. That's kind of all I've got for this one.
Yeah, I haven't got a lot on this one either. I put this as the weirdest one on the album so far. It has, and I put here, it has potential in parts, which maybe it's how you explain where you've got these other sounds and stuff going on, which I think is a good probably word too, like intruding the song really. So I think there was some really good elements I really liked of it, but then the stuff that I didn't like, I think really sort of let it down. I've kind of put here, this could be my least favourite on here, but maybe that's being a bit harsh on it. So I think they're all kind of good in their own way. But I said it had potential, but for most of it didn't quite work for me.
Okay, so the next one, Not the Same Anymore, also feels quite chilled. Not as good as the songs earlier on in the album. Something lacking here is all I've got for this. Didn't know what else to say really.
Yeah, but here again, really sort of slow, meaningful kind of sounding song. It kind of has the same sort of as we had from the start of the album, sort of really slow sort of intro for it there. I think the trouble was, I think maybe it was a bit too stoned, a bit too meaningful song, and it felt like it could have been what should have probably been the last song on the album. So I say it reminded me of the first tracks, but I think for some reason I enjoyed the first tracks more than this particular one.
And the final song then was Odes to the Mets. So this is I put here, sounds like Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. There's part of the song at the beginning that had that feel to it. It's like, oh, this kind of sounds a bit familiar. It's like, Bad Romance, Lady Gaga. I preferred this to the previous few songs. This was kind of more like the beginning of the album, which is the part I preferred more. Not so keen on the angry singing part. I've never been a fan of that kind of angry, aggressive singing style. Maybe you could say the song dragged on a little bit. It was quite long. I thought maybe it did get a little bit boring. So it was okay in parts.
Yeah, I've put here, this could be one of my favourites, but I wouldn't just say this is my favourite one on there. I said I probably need to go back and listen to Fraud again. Again, because, like you said, I had that same sort of vibe at the start of the album. Felt like there was something quite good about it here. But I was, again, more interested with sort of the title because it said Ode to the Mets, and obviously the Mets was in capital. And it turns out the Mets was in reference to the baseball team, the New York Mets, who I have actually seen play. So I know a little bit of their history there. So I've also been to their ground to watch them play. So I found that. And what I really liked about it is the fact is that there is sort of the sports reference, and the singer, he is a big Mets fan. Apparently he's spent a couple of years trying to write this song together because he always wanted to write a song for them and sort of put this in place there. So I found it more interesting, the sort of background to the song. But like I said, there was something about it that I did quite like. Again, like with all the others, it all has potential to be a really good song in parts. And I feel like if I had the ability to maybe take bits from one, from another, and maybe merge two or three of them together, I feel like there could be a really good sort of standout song that I would put like on a playlist. Otherwise, I said they're all just quite nice songs, enjoyable to listen to, but just also missing that little something to really make it a standout album or real one that I would really want to either purchase or put songs on a playlist.
So is that your summing up then?
Yeah, I kind of sort of merge into a sort of summing up as well, really, sort of there. So yes, it is.
Yeah, for me, I was kind of impressed with this, to be honest, because I don't really think this would be my sort of go-to music, really, the Strokes. So I kind of think this is as good as it could have been, if that makes sense. So I enjoyed it. Like you said at the beginning, there wasn't really a standout song for me. There's not really a song I'd say, well, I'm going to put this on like a playlist. I just kind of enjoyed the album as a whole. I just felt it was quite relaxing. The songs were interesting, even if I didn't necessarily like them too much. Some of them were fine, and just quite a lot going on in the songs, quite a lot of variety. So yeah, I was impressed to a certain extent. Not a bad album by any means. There's certainly been worse albums that I've listened to for sure. So yeah, thank you for the request, Scrambled 59. Our only requester. He's not one of your mates, is it? You haven't got him involved in this, have you?
I can only say you can justify as well that we don't know each other, and nothing to do with me. Okay,
well that's us done. We'll be back with you next week, no doubt, for 2 weeks for another Scrambled 59 request. Okay, and subscribe if you haven't. For the fun of it, and we'll see you for the next one. Take care. Goodbye.